Hello, welcome to another episode of Full Circle with me, Onyx. And today I want to talk about like being honest deep within your own heart. So I went and spent the holidays with my family after, I've spent a long time away from them to kind of just get back to myself, and I had to cut off a lot of friends and family members that were refusing to live in their heart, to be honest with themselves. And so, have you heard that saying? It says, say what you mean what you say. That kind of really applies. Wherever there's like confusion, uh, where we can't make up our mind, make a choice, where we're trying to decide, you know, what are my values? How did I get in this situation? Why do I feel upset? Am I going to be hurting someone else? Like all this mental stuff. A lot of stuff that we turn to self help and psychology uh, can be really quickly dealt with if you just spend time in your own heart. A lot of people, think, oh, I'm in touch with my heart because I have emotions and I'm expressing my emotions. I cry. I say, I love you. I care about you. Uh, on one level, that's very surface. Like being in your heart space, living from your heart, having a heart awakening or opening, allowing being vulnerable to yourself, and getting back to who you are, honoring your inner child. All of this is part of that divine connection you feel in your heart and you feel in your soul. And when you're disconnected from that, it's like you end up making wrong choices, you end up compromising your values, you're not being clear with who you are, so you're sending mixed messages to people, and it comes off of offensive, it comes off shallow, it comes off confusing, and there's a lot of conflict. So part about being clear and standing in your power has a lot to do with spending time in your heart. So when we're getting real with ourselves, uh, you know, so kind of like law of attraction, ascension, awakening, all this stuff, you can really facilitate that better with honesty. And the first time I looked at honesty, I was reading this book on like Kundalini awakening. And I remember, like, kind of in the introduction, it talked about this like martial art teacher who had some new student, and the teacher like slapped him across the face real hard, just like with one hard hit. And then whatever the explanation was, it was supposed to be about being honest. And like I didn't get it. I was like, that just sounds off, but okay, And then spending time with the family on the holidays, it's a hard thing for a lot of us. And I had an opportunity to see mirrors of myself. I had an opportunity to also just see family dynamics. Uh, and one of my sisters, I don't feel is being spending time being present with herself in her heart and looking over like a 20-year period or even 30 years, maybe a whole lifetime. Uh, she doesn't seem happy. Like, where's the joy? And I'm just using this as a reference because at first I was seeing it outside of myself. And then I was like, And when I was just witnessing and observing, I was like, okay, whatever. And then I got home and I'm like, why do I feel responsible for my sister's well being? Why am I even remembering this? Why did it even etch a memory in my mind? And I was like, you're kind of a problem solver. And maybe on an unconscious level, her whining was that invitation. And I was like, but no matter, I want to get rid of this out of my mind. I don't want to be responsible for how someone else is feeling. And I have a lot of memories of her being aggressive in defensive mode, being a victim, always taking everything personal and whatever. And so it's like, I kind of am very kind of like cautious how I work my way around this sister character. And then I was like, what is the real issue here? What is the real issue? And it came to me. It was like, she's not being authentic. She has no real vision for herself. Everything comes across cloudy. Because like at a different on a different day when I was hanging out at the house during this like kind of weekend of family get together for the holidays, I noticed at one point her energy field kind of like clouded a little bit. And the energy I could feel in her aura. So seemed to kind of like cloud over and mutate. Some things were hidden, but then, it was like masking some feelings. And I was like, why? And why do I feel threatened? Why do I feel unsafe? Why? I'm like, do I even know her? Like, is there a mask on? Like, what is going on? And has it always been going on? Like, you know, and I think we're taught to hide our feelings and our true thoughts, keep the peace, you know, for the well being of other people, stay quiet, cross your legs, be ladylike or be a gentleman or be a good boy, good girl. And all this people pleasing really creates distance. It's creating mixed signals, and reflecting. A lot of people can't handle the truth. They don't understand that truth from your perspective, your observations shared can offer insight into yourself. And so, at first you'd be like, ow, that kind of hurt. And, oh, but thank you. It was so true. So, I feel like that's the benefit of being the other person. You know, as God, we split ourselves up into all these different humans to look at ourselves from various perspectives. Take advantage of it and glean the advice, the insights, the truths that are coming from these other perspectives. So, and so my journey for the last few years has been about the heart. Egypt as a mythical culture, has always intrigued me, and the weighing of the heart and the scarab over the heart, these type of things started to grab my attention. And then so I started doing meditations at the heart chakra center, breathing, focusing, whatever. Then I got into Joe Dispenza's work for a little while, and then kind of like put it down. And so I remember when everything was going well in my life. I attracted an attractive boyfriend. I got to express feelings I was never able to express before, share, interact. and feel. And when I was feeling from my heart space, living in my heart space, it became really clear that a lot of people around me were so negative, and they were overthinking, stuck in the analyzer, and creating problems for themselves by psychoanalyzing their history and just a whole bunch of bullshit. And and so, I put that all away, and then I just had my observation with my sister. And I'm like, okay, Onyx, follow your own advice. Be honest with yourself. Be in your own heart space. When you see something outside of you, it's a projection. I mean, it could also be very true as well. But since you're only responsible for you, uh, ask yourself, why aren't you honoring your inner child more? You know? And live more from your heart space. So I am creating a vision board. I'm currently in the process of creating my vision board, and it's going to be more heart centered, more inner child centered. The goal of it. So I was like texting my mom because my sister lives with my mom, and I was like, maybe you want to have a conversation with, so and so, and, ask her, when did she, like, what would she like to do, and blah, 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 blah. I wanted her to be, because my sister gets reactive when I try to assist her, even though when she gets defensive, and I don't have time for that. So I was like, maybe we could work around this by having my mom ask her, and they could build, because they're really reflections of each other. Like all my mom's daughters, they're just another incarnation of my mom, and so they all have the same discounting of their self-worth, not living in integrity, um, all the same patterns. So it's part of our family dynamics. So I thought it'd be really good for those two to work it out together and maybe gain some insights. I was like going to facilitate this from afar via text. And so, yes, I care about my family. Uh, but I'm like, okay, make your vision board. You do you. Maybe you'll be the only one who got the insight about that. We all were doing our thing, whatever. And so I'm like, I'm gonna make a video about living in the heart space, because a lot of us think heart, love and light, and more hugs. I'm like, living in the heart is probably the root of being authentic. And when you realize that you've sacrificed, you've given up, you've compromised, you've ignored, you've pushed down and suppressed this heart energy, this authentic being, you're you've then taken yourself off your divine path. So the person, like your soulmate, if you believe in soulmates and twin flames, probably isn't going to show up in your holographic reality, because you're not listening. You're not acquainted with the divinity in your own heart. It's like you're detached. You're having, what do they call that? You're disassociated from the natural flow. You're disassociated from your intuition, because we're taught in a culture, work hard, do things you don't like to do, jump through the hoops, get the job, get the money, and then do what you like to do. Then you'll get your freedom. Like, living in your heart is the reward after all this work. It's like, learn to sit in a chair for 8 hours at school, do what other people say, do everything for the world, and you're last. And retirement is when you get to then consider yourself. But by then you're old, and it's, so we're taught in our Western society to basically ignore the inner child, train the inner child, and we train our authentic nature out of ourselves. So much so, it's now a foreign object that we might disdain people who can't stay in character as an adult, as a professional success, whatever it is for you, you know? And so I thought what I wanted to say to my sister, I mean, I can't be honest with her because she's in defensive mode, because her heart isn't open and she has a bad relationship with herself. Our whole family does. Okay. So, uh, and so if I can't even have the conversation with them out feel if someone's like feeling offended, their victim mode defense, the defense mode's on steroids. It's an overdose of defense mode, thought patterns, reactions. I'm not even talking to the real person inside, you know? So it's dangerous to interact with someone who is always on defense mode. Anyways, so I thought talking to my mom about it would be good to have her deliver that. And maybe she will. Like, my mom got defensive because I think I have some other intention other than helping them, because I've been through life coach training, and then they've kind of asked for it. So, anyways, this opening of the heart, this allows forgiveness. It allows that self-acceptance. And it's kind of like the landing pad, the launch pad of spirit. So this higher elevated intuition, knowing, connection with God, um, deeper insights, all grounds, it all lands on that launch pad or grounding pad. The helicopter lands and it's in the heart chakra. Then it can integrate through your body, And so the heart chakra is the center of your energy body. It's the center. So the center of all things good. So in a weird way, it's truly like the seat of the soul. Uh, and you're out, it's the balance. It's the center of the cross. It's the axis mundi point. It's the center of centers. So when your heart is clean and clear, your thought patterns are cleaner and clear, and it like improves your intuition. It improves your psychic ability. It allows flexibility for expansion, to understand people where they're coming from. It brings in compassion. So, and it also brings in self-respect, like you feel things very nuanced when your heart is open. And so that's why it's beautiful. Like an artist, a true artist, their senses are wired into their heart. And so they savor the music and they find the beauty in it. They find reverence in it, inspiration and awe. And so it's like all these things that everyone thinks they're going to get with their third eye and crown chakra is actually a little more realistic down in the heart. And so it's like, in order for a plant to grow very well, it has to have the proper fertilizer, and it has to have pH balance for that plant. It has to have the right minerals, you know, and so it's like the heart chakra is the ground. It is like the fertilizer. And when it's really rich and appropriate for the plant you're trying to grow, uh, things happen naturally. with ease, with grace. Uh, you don't, and so that's all I was asking, So, inquiry, why we don't question ourselves. At least the people who are in my family kind of don't question themselves because there's this hidden fear of, well, what happens if I find something bad? Do I now go into self beat up? Should I feel ashamed? Do I need to apologize to someone? And that looks bad. So then another beat up cycle. So there's a consequence for looking into your heart. And people are trying to circumvent it. They try to go low with their, I would call them 3D emotions: shame, guilt, just like the everyday ones, anger, uh, needy attachment energies, or they try to go mental with it, form constructs, weigh it out morally against their values, and they do so they might try to make their mind look at their heart, or they might have their 3D self look into the heart. And really, it's like, no, 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 you're making it so hard. Just be there, feel, be true to thyself, to thine own self, be true, know thyself. It's all in the heart. So, you know, and so it's really a beautiful place to look. I So they don't realize I'm asking you to look back at the Garden of Eden. I'm asking to you, which would be paradise, which would be the symbol of when everything was good, when everything was balanced, when everything was pure. I'm asking you to look back to your pure nature, that is reflected in a child's eye. To enter the kingdom of God, you enter like a child. You're an adult, but you still have the purity. You have the openness and, and the sensitivity, the, for that nuanced experience of spirit. Uh, Things aren't so literal, they become kind of magical and spiritual. And there's a deep level of meaning there in the heart. So, my other sister, she's depressed, and she came into town, and I visited with her. And usually I'm not really like super connected to my family. I don't want to be. Like, I love being by myself. And I was like, in a weird way, maybe your presence is necessary. Maybe they need your validation. Maybe they need your support on some level. So don't deny them that. It's not all about you, you know, it's about them too. So I hung out with her, and I could see that she was holding back, you know, some feelings. And, you know, once again, here's another sister trying to keep a happy face on. And I'm like, no, don't give me surface. We're here. Give me the truth. She admitted that, she's going through some depression and whatever. And, you know, why did we go there? And I realized, she's a mom, she has kids, she's putting them through school and all that stuff. And she's taught self-sacrifice. So after a lifetime of disassociation of your true authentic nature, of learning to put you on the back burner, out of duty, because you're raising kids and whatever, it's like it takes a toll. And then here we are, all my brothers and sisters, we're here at midlife, and the magic is worn off of ignorance, you know? And now it's time for that rebirth. It's time for that get to know yourself. So let's be authentic. Let's have honest conversations. let's dig into our heart and find that that passion again. So it's like, if you have, so I'm just kind of, I'm like, okay, you guys, we're at that point. We've already talked about, we've already gone through all the coping mechanisms, all of our habits that make us feel safe. We've talked about it all. Now it's time to look in our heart and go from there. It might mean a career change. It might mean a divorce. It might mean lower pay because you need more fun in your career. It might mean a wardrobe change. It might mean putting into practice honoring your spirit, honoring your soul, honoring your inner child, your feminine side, your masculine side. Like, who knows what it is for you, but it's in your heart. And and when you're honoring that, when it's not negotiable, uh, when you are truly doing you, everything you need is going to fall into place. If you're supposed to be in a new relationship and someone is attracted to you living, because like your heart is like this, is going to ignite. It's that long lasting motivation. Like, we get all this motivation. uh people are talking, motivational coaches, motivational speakers, inspirational. um your own heart should be able to be like a light in the dark, lighting your way, motivating you, and fueling your vision, activating your vision board. It's through your heart, activating your relationships, getting passionate into conversations, getting passionate into subjects. And that passion comes from living deep in your heart, soulfully. And then you like light up and attract people, places, and situations. And so it's not surface level to dive deep into your own heart center, and see with new eyes, you know? And it shows. Your voice changes when you're speaking from your heart, in your soul, your passion. And the types of thoughts you have when it's connected to your heart, they're more expanded, more inclusive. You see more perspectives, so you get information, more information. It makes you more intelligent. So in the old Western model, the brain is here, the mind, the heart is over there, spirit is over here, the body is over there. There's all this dissection, all this divorce of male, female, right, wrong, good and bad, this duality model. And it's not a matrix, it's just a model of thought that was prescribed to the masses in an overdose proportion. It's like a pill we're swallowing every day. You can take this other pill. You can take a green pill where it's inclusive and productive and where everyone wins. It's not full of labels. It's full of spontaneous, authentic responses. Um, so it's like, you don't need to create a whole new language for it. You don't need to call it guides. You don't need to call it ascended masters or quantum physics. You just get in, get into your heart, and your aura will then be, you'll be giving clear messages. So it's, you create safety and permission first for yourself, and then it extends out into your energy field. Kids feel it, animals feel it, nature feels it, life feels it. Your special person will feel it from miles away. And like the enrichment of your life, you're not living on autopilot. You're not in the hypnosis of all your coping mechanisms called your routine of the day. It's like your eyes light up and you're looking for the unexpected, and suddenly your ordinary life becomes very magical because you're living in your heart space. It balances things out. You can then process your shadow material because you're balancing out with a centered heart. You're like, "Ooh, that was a very dark thought. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I went so dark." And well, yes, I did. And I understand myself more. There's wisdom there, you know, and, or I really did something bad. I do feel sorry. I do feel deep levels of shame, guilt, and remorse. With my heart, I have this ability to look at the highs and look at the lows, look at the dark, look at the light, look at the conflicts, but it's being balanced naturally. It comes back to center, it comes back to good with the heart. It's like, okay, well, I am beating myself up as I feel like I should, but there's actually a stopping point. It's not a new lifestyle called victimhood forever, or going to therapy forever, or trying to win the love from people who can't give it to me forever. It's like, no, I'm done. 20 minutes of self beat up, of self regret, shame, fine, I'm done. We'll whittle it down. Or a real apology, or I felt afraid, I felt embarrassed, I felt humiliated, which is like the ultimate fear in most people's minds, is some form of humiliation. You can bounce back, you can get over it, you can get back to good, you can get back to forgiveness like a child, and then get playing again. It's like, okay, my boss yelled at me and that was way out of control, inappropriate, maybe even said some things that were sexist, racist, gender not appropriate. But I'm living in my heart and I really understand where they're coming from. And yeah, I felt like retaliating, but I can get over it and I can just get back to work, or I can be motivated more. Okay, this is just clarifying my vision, my life. You know, you can really have a deeper level of self-respect. You can glow up by making that commitment to really be in your heart space, know yourself, know your heart. Like, I feel like I'm the spokesperson of heart chakra because for some crazy reason, I've always had that. I've always had a connection with my own heart. Um, and it's like the one thing I love about myself the most. The body comes and goes, wealth comes and goes. What I've said, oops, but I know because I feel inside of myself. And so